Welcome back to Politics here on France 24, where we're going to be discussing the latest bombshell involving President Nicolas Sarkozy, as well as the fight for designation of the Socialist Party presidential candidate in the fall. It's going to be in October. So with me on the set is Anne-Elisabeth Moutet, who's a columnist for the Sunday Telegraph, and also on the set is Stefan de Vries, who's the correspondent for the Dutch TV station RTL4. Anne-Elisabeth Moutet, what do you make of the latest revelations? In a nutshell, allegations that President Nicolas Sarkozy, before his election, received cash from France's richest woman, Liliane Bettencourt, who is the heiress to the L'Oréal company. Those are very serious allegations. They were deemed as rubbish by the presidential palace, but could they stick?
Well, they're not proven. You have a judge who was taken off the case and who has written a book about a number of...
She's not written a book. She's actually quoted
in a book among several people. It's two Le Monde journalists who went and interviewed people who felt that they had been ill-treated by the power in place. And what she says is that she has witnesses who, in the Bettencourt case, would not talk to her during the interrogations, but would say off interrogations that they knew of somebody who had seen or who had seen themselves. One person says, "I have seen Monsieur Sarkozy receive money," and another one said, "I know somebody who said that." You have to wonder, she's a judge. These people were she's an investigative magistrate. These people were being investigated. They were talking to a judge. How they can manage to talk off interrogation and decide that it stays off interrogation is something that personally amazes me. And I don't think it can stick very hard because at the end of the day, why was she not doing her job and saying, well, you just told me that and I cannot unlearn it, and therefore, will you say to this, will you say that you refuse to answer? But it wasn't even mentioned that they said something that they would not repeat formally. So I think that's enough for the Sarkozys to sort of answer that. But certainly the attempt right now is everybody's coming back from holiday. Sarkozy had this wonderful summer in which the Strauss-Kahn scandal meant that the Socialist Party was put in disarray. He has success in Libya. His wife is expecting a son. I mean, the whole, the situation is wonderful, and his poll numbers are creeping upwards again after
They're still very low. Huh?
They're still very low, but they're creeping upwards, and and this is the idea, is to break his run of luck, basically, or at least that's the way they see it.
So do you see this as a political plot against Nicolas Sarkozy? I mean, the journalists, they've been asked all day when this was revealed, why did they do this now? What about the timing? They said, well, we just finished our job, and if we really wanted to hurt the president, we would have waited just a couple of months or a couple of weeks before the election, which is still 8 months away.
Yeah, I don't think it's too sophisticated enough to be a real plot against the president. I think it just shows that it's this week. It's like you said. Everybody's coming back from holidays. It's the rentrée. It's a big event in France. So everybody's trying to gain some media attention, and it's just two phrases in this whole book. And I think it's a lot of hearsay, so it's very hard to prove. And I think the judge is well aware of that. And like Anne-Elisabeth mentioned, it is rather strange that she didn't make this witness talk on the record, basically, since she is an investigative judge, so she theoretically has the power. So it's just two phrases in a book, and, well, it might be true, it might be rubbish, but hard to judge.
But, I mean, nevertheless, the witness apparently did not say this on the record because she said she was afraid. There were lots of pressures allegedly against her, but this being said, Sarkozy has this image of he's the president of the rich, and now he's been trying to distance himself from that, and there you go again. He's associated, maybe in a very nasty way, with France's richest woman. Is this bad for him politically, given the way he's trying to position himself?
Well, the question is, how is the French public going to say this, to take this? And it's not news that politicians in France for years and years and years have received contributions from, rich people, because poor people don't have that much money to give, and they run the gamut from left to right. Mitterrand was very famously subsidized by a number of capitalists. And there have been stories for which actually Jacques Chirac is going to find himself soon in the dock. About financing by various means, illegal means, the party workers and campaign workers. And it's not as if it comes as a complete surprise. And to a large extent, what the French really dislike and where it really changes their mind is when there is a suspicion of personal enrichment. I don't think anybody thinks that is a question of personal enrichment. It's a question of campaign finance. It is perfectly illegal, but that's a big difference that people make. It's hearsay, and also we have seen in this country many investigative magistrates who really went very far, pressured witnesses during the investigations, put them in jail. One is even a presidential candidate, that's Eva Joly, the Green candidate. So that judge, if anything, if she was taken off the investigation, you might think that she was taken off the investigation because she wasn't doing enough, not because she was doing too much.
Okay, we're going to switch to the other big topic of the week is the socialists. So the socialists are holding an unprecedented open primary to designate their candidate. There are 5 socialist candidates. There's one who's not formally a socialist, from a small party who's also in the running. Is this a danger for the socialists? They say this will help them really have someone who will be legitimate because he will have been elected, quote unquote, and this will help him for the election. But is there a danger that the competition might end up weakening the socialists?
Well, the socialists are already extremely weak. So whether they held a primary or not, it doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't change anything. It's just, and it can become a big disaster because they aim at least 1 million people who are going to vote in October, which is rather ambitious. Although everybody has the right to vote, well, at least everybody who is 18 years old, so including all the foreigners living in France, and they aim at 1 million people at least. If they are under this number of people, then clearly the primaries have been a failure. So that's already a major risk factor. If does it become a success or not? Then within the Socialist Party, there's a lot of everybody hates each other. Actually, they pretend that they are united, that they like each other, that they're colleagues, but basically they can drink each other's blood, and some of them probably already have done so. I'm thinking of the former couple of François Hollande and Ségolène Royal. These two people really. I think they would like to kill each other if they were less civilized, and they probably would do so. So it's a big mess within the Socialist Party, and they're not going to be able to solve this within the next couple of weeks.
Right. Just before I get to, I conducted an interview with one of the leading contenders, Martine Aubry, and this is what she had to say about the competition and how she sees this shaping up.
We have organized primaries not to run a beauty contest, but to tell people that we have the most important thing in common. It is up to the French people to see which man or a woman, hopefully a woman, has the most courage and is ready to make decisions, with whom they can have confidence, and who will stay close to the people. But once again, I respect the opinions of each candidate.
Nice words.
Yes, not very stirring words, though. The thing about those primaries, I think, is well worth mentioning for viewers abroad that it's not an old tradition. It is not constitutional. It is not part of the traditional process.
It's new,
it's
actually.
It's the second time. It's very new. It's the second time they organized them. The question is, you can have cross-voting. Apparently people are supposed to sign a declaration that they abide by the principles of the left. But considering many of the speeches of Sarkozy during his 2007 campaign, in which he quoted Léon Blum, the French Popular Front Prime Minister, in which he quoted Jean Jaurès, the founder of the Socialist Party, many people on the right can cross-vote and not even perjure themselves when they sign that they adhere to the values of the left. And the other thing, of course, is that the whole sort of game of those primaries has been changed by the Dominique Strauss-Kahn affair. He was expected to sail through and to be a clear winner. He was leading Sarkozy by 20 points in the polls, and now you've got to all the voters. They're not, they don't see their ideal candidate. They see whatever it is that crops up when you've lost the person you wanted. So they will go to this with sort of limited enthusiasm. And then it's really going to be a question of is there any kind of sort of desire to see these people win? I'm not sure. I think they want to beat Sarkozy. That's something else. But in terms of finding these stirringly enthusiasming, I don't think that's what's going on right now. I think within the Socialist Party, as you said quite rightly, it is a bitter fight among people who loathe each other's guts, and outside there's a sort of great exhaustion already. You've got voters looking at this and thinking, oh, when is this over and when do we get to vote for the presidential election?
Nevertheless, there is a horse race. Right now, François Hollande, who's the former party boss, is ahead, way ahead, 10 points ahead of Martine Aubry, his successor. Do you think that he looks the most presidential, quote-unquote, for now among the socialists?
Well... Quite frankly, I don't see any president within these candidates. There's no candidate that really triggers my imagination. Actually, the whole problem is that this country is in such bad shape, economical shape, that I don't see the socialists changing this country. Actually, I don't see anyone changing this country. Maybe an outsider from another country. But if you see the French candidates and even Nicolas Sarkozy, well, with all due respect, they really don't know what they're talking about when it comes to the economy. And that is basically the only topic that will decide a presidential election, that will basically decide any election. And these people are just not up to it. So I'm very pessimistic about the
But I mean, the socialists, the leading contenders, Martine Aubry and François Hollande, have a fairly similar view of the economy. They're not exactly to the far left. They're rather centrist. I mean, it seems that they could be able to attract some support and be seen, if not as thrilling candidates, at least as legitimate ones.
They are. I mean, they're both graduates of this government school, which has given France, I think, 9 prime ministers, 3 presidents, and something
and
like
zero growth and very high unemployment.
And 80% of the bosses of the 40 largest French corporations, and they all come from the same mold.
Yes.
They think inside the box. They're not Sarkozy at least was not an ENA graduate, and they all sort of believe in sort of statism with a dash of market economy, but not too much. This is something that works very well in a top-down situation. It gives you good telecoms, it gives you trains, because trains you need to invest for 30 years. It gives you big stuff that's decided from the top. It does not give you the internet. It does not give you stuff that is done by scrapping your way bottom up. It doesn't give you Apple. It's an entirely different way of looking at the economy. Martine Aubry argues that she had a corporate career. She was chief financial officer of Saint-Gobain years ago. She was in the private sector before going back fully into politics and becoming the mayor of Lille. Many people remember in this country that she is the daughter of Jacques Delors, who was the first president of the European Commission and who's pretty popular in France as somebody who's a realist socialist and somebody who believes in Europe. And she's got slightly the edge in that respect. She's got one big thing against her, which is that her name was on the bill that voted in the 90s the 35-hour work week. And this is seen as completely unrealistic. And the idea was a Malthusian idea that if you split work, there would be enough jobs for everyone. And of course, that didn't work out. On the other hand, François Hollande has never been a cabinet minister. Martine Aubry has been. He's never been in the corporate world. He is a sober character, and in many ways, people like the idea of Hollande as a regional politician.
A normal president. This is what he called himself.
A normal person, a regional politician who comes from the same département as Jacques Chirac in the Corrèze, and Chirac has joked that he would vote for him, which is the nasty sort of jab at Sarkozy. And somebody who's very obviously honest. He's also somebody who said rich people are people who make more than 4,500 euros a month, which with most of the voters actually works, but with anybody who knows something about economics is horrifying. It's, they're respectable people. That's the best you can say about them, I suppose.
Right, but let's take Martine Aubry, who's trailing in the polls. Is she also suffering from being a second choice because she had decided, according to most accounts, not to run if Dominique Strauss-Kahn would run, and because he was wiped out of the race for the events we all know, she now was forced, and this is really a major handicap, and she might not get over it.
Yeah, it was a handicap, but I think she overcame this handicap. But she doesn't show a lot of passion. It's not a very passionate candidate. She's a very rational candidate, and I think in a presidential election that's not enough. She's quite boring. She's not very funny. I mean, François Hollande can make a lot of jokes, and this goes down well with the audience, and that's basically how it works. It doesn't really matter what's your political program. That's just, you know, in elections, political programs are never important. It's only about image. And look at her, with all due respect, she looks like a very boring grandmother, and that's not enough to win a presidential election.
She's a bit like Angela Merkel in sort
yes,
of,
indeed.
you know, in charisma.
Yes, in charisma, indeed.
But Angela Merkel is in power.
Angela Merkel is in power. They do not elect the party chose her. It's a bit different. And Martine Aubry was the leader of the Socialist Party, and after François Hollande. And what's interesting is she succeeded François Hollande. She succeeded François Hollande. Hollande, and then she complained bitterly about everything from the state he left the party in to the state he actually, you know, the dirt in the bathrooms of the Socialist Party. I mean, there's sputtering rage between these two, and they loathe one another. Now, one thing I can't even remember is whether Ségolène Royal is actually still will run in the primaries, or whether she's actually given up.
No, she's still there,
she's
and she still believes in herself. She believes all the polls are wrong because no one knows who will vote, and that she's in the running.
Of course, she won in 2007, after all, against Nicolas Sarkozy, if I remember well.
Not exactly, but we'll see. Obviously, we still have more time to talk about the socialists who will be in the running to face probably Nicolas Sarkozy, or who knows, someone else in the second round of the presidential election. I want to thank both of you, and thank you all for watching Politics. We'll be back next week.